Comrade Geza just addressed the nation, and in his address, he raised one critical thing. People should get into the streets on the 17th of October 2025. It will be a Friday. That is next week. So the agenda is clear. Let us remove Emmerson Mnangagwa. That is the agenda that announced by Comrade Geza. But let us look at the possibilities of this happening. Will he be able to make sure that Mnangagwa is removed on the 17th? ZANU-PF is going to the Congress on the 13th. That is when the Congress is starting. So 17 October is very critical and very important because certain events would be happening very, very close to those days. So if you push the nation into agitation by the 17th, if critical decisions are to be made against General Chiwenga, if things go wrong during the conference against General Chiwenga, Emmerson Mnangagwa and his supporters, they will be met with a fierce resistance from the masses and from the people. So imagine a case or a situation where the people get into the streets and they say, okay, let us stop the 2030 agenda. Let us stop Zvigananda. It's going to be chaos everywhere. But let me tell you one thing, Mnangagwa is not an easy target. He's not going to say, okay, I'm leaving. He will fight back. Kudakwashe Taguri was so clear. He said, when you have money, you can buy the military. When you have money, you have influence and control. Which means they will try by all means possible to use the same military which they gave vehicles just a few days ago to stop that mass protest. Which means people will be double-minded. People will say, okay, if we get into the streets, masoja yaga badarwa, what will happen? So other people say, okay, if we don't get into the streets, what is coming, the Mafidi dynasty, it's something else. But the difference now is General Chiwenga is confronted Emmerson Mnangagwa. The relationship is now sour. It's no longer the usual, which we knew in the past. We now know the position of the general, that he is not in agreement with whatever which is happening. Which means there is a sour relationship between the two. That alone is likely going to propel a lot of people to say, let's get into the streets. So Comrade Geza broke away from ZANU-PF and he was fired. He was removed from the Central Committee. And around March, he called for a national protest. It failed. But this time around, it seems as if because of the new developments which have happened, new things which have happened, new positions which we have witnessed and observed, there is going to be something which is different. The turnout is going to be different. No one knows who and who also are going to be part and parcel of that protest or are going to endorse the protest. Will the opposition chip in? Will General Chiwenga add and chip in to this? If General Chiwenga adds a voice, what it means is he is going to give people assurance that they are going to be safe in the streets. That is what the people need. So when you are looking at Comrade Geza, I've talked to a lot of analysts in the past few days. They believe that Comrade Geza is fighting a factional battle within ZANU-PF. And one thing he does not specify for sure is whether ZANU-PF should remain or not. That is the biggest problem, and I think that is one of the biggest mistakes they've made. If he had said ZANU-PF must go, that was going to be very, very clear to the people that the agenda is not only to dismantle Mnangagwa in the 2030s, is to dismantle ZANU-PF, dislodge ZANU-PF in the 2030s. So this was going to give people some fresh air and help them think about what to do. So what it means is right now, because of the growing tensions, VP Chiwenga publicly accused Mnangagwa's closest allies of looting. Yes, he did. And they are now fighting VP Chiwenga directly. and are pushing to remove him from power, which means whatever happens, Team GEZA, Team Chiwenga, and others, they need to put together their arsenals, put aside their differences, and push Zvigananda out. So the constitutional environment in Zimbabwe, it was made harsh because of the Patriotic Bill, which criminalizes criticism of the government. And the state has been given sweeping powers to suppress dissent. That is one of the biggest thing. If you're coming out and you are criticizing the government, you're likely going to be arrested, you're likely going to suffer. So for us to have a clear answer on whether people get into the streets is something different. But what we can say for now is GEZA just set a stage for potential unrest, and that potential unrest is going to face a lot of obstacles. You're going to see the state trying to coerce people not to get into the streets. You're going to see the state trying to use legal restrictions. Elites are going to run around. Others will stick to Mnangagwa. Others will go to the general. But there is also public fatigue. People are tired. Those are in the comments on the question is, will people refill the streets on 17 October 2025? They filled the streets in 2017. And will they be able to do so this time around? So there is a lot of discontent within the nation. There is economic suffering, there is inflation, social hardship, corruption, declining public services. These are the most chronic grievances which we can talk about. So for those in the urban areas, people feel that they only have just a little left to lose. They've lost already, which means they will be willing to get and participate into whatever which is coming, as long as their security is guaranteed. I believe that the notion is going to be different. They are going to say it's better to have a new devil than to continue with the devil we know where he is actually going. So the key agenda right here will be, okay, if this one promised that we must have 2028 elections, so let us dismantle the Mafidi dynasty, which is saying we can't go to 2028. And then we go to 2028 and we see who wins. So people might take the risk and might get into the streets. So what we can talk about right now is there is a mobilization infrastructure in place. Yes, Comrade GEZA created a social network which is well connected to the masses, and his appeal is getting to each and every corner, including the rural areas, which means there is a likelihood that people get into the streets because the message is moving across WhatsApp groups as we speak right now. The impact is being felt from our WhatsApp groups, from our Facebook pages, everywhere. The impact is being felt. So when we're looking at the timing, Comrade GEZA is coming at the most critical time where General Chiwenga can be fired from ZANU-PF. So this is what is going to anger a lot of people, cause a lot of people to get into the streets. So you look at Harare, you look at Blawa, you look at Mtare, you look at those critical towns. These are critical towns where things can happen, where pushes can be made. And remember, Mnangagwa will be in Mtare, and the things will be happening in Harare. So what it means is, Comrade GEZA is actually doing two things. He might even cause the postponement of the conference. I'm telling you, you can hear that the conference has been postponed to another date simply because of the announcement made by Comrade GEZA. And that is what is going to cause a lot of trouble again. Mnangagwa will be in Mtare, things will be happening in Harare, as well as probably in Mtare again. So in as much as things continue to happen in such a way, when the president is out of town, that is the most riskiest thing to do. He can't let that happen. He can't let the protest happen in his absence. What if the protesters block all the avenues for him to enter into Harare? And then they block all the avenues for him to enter into Bulawayo. Those two cities do have the Zimbabwe state houses. They are very critical and very important, and that the seats of power. When you're outside, far away from the seat of power, and things are happening in the backyard, kune seat of power rako, guess who will be in Harare? I think you know who will be in Harare in that period. VP Chiwenga will be in Mtare, Emerson Mnangagwa will be in Mtare, Kembo Mahad will be in Mtare. The whole presidium, the ministers, everybody, the whole government will be in Mtare. And things will be happening in Harare. Have you ever imagined about that situation of things happening in Harare, while everyone else is holed up in Mtare? So that is something which is very critical and very important. So there is likelihood of state repression and surveillance. Yes, there is a week or so, which means the government will try to control everything using the security forces, intelligence agencies, the police. They will try by all means possible to try and suppress the protests. But because they did it successfully also in March, and also because of the lower turnout in March, they're not going to be so much serious about people getting into the streets. They will be focusing on dealing with internal issues at the conference. So another issue is there's going to be a lot of intimidation. A lot of people are going to be in fear. And also we are going to see some legal deterrences. People are going to ask questions, what happened to those who were arrested in March? So another question is, are we going to have public apathy or fatigue? People are tired of broken promises. And there is need for assurances. There is need for Comrade Geza to make sure that he assures or reassures the people of Zimbabwe of what must happen. So I think that they must be so clear about the kind of government they wish or they intend to bring. Does Comrade Geza have organizational capacity? Yes, he does. He has been running this thing for quite some months now, which means if there are assurances, if people know the clear direction of where the nation should go, you will see people getting into the streets. And then when you're looking at the opposition, is the opposition divided enough to cause people not to get into the streets? No. The opposition is not divided that much that people can't go into the streets. But it depends on if the leader of the opposition will support the call to end the rule of Emerson Mnangagwa. Which means Comrade Geza will need to come with supplement videos where he's going to make it clear about the roles of each and every person. Can participate? Opposition say. I think that must be clear. So what we can say in conclusion is Zimbabweans, you can't tell if they'll get into the streets or not. But judging from the situation, judging from what is happening, the situation is 50-50. People might get in the streets, people might not get in the streets. It all depends on does or will the team Geza give that much needed assurance to the people of Zimbabwe.